Extrajudicial killings by the police and the armed forces. The Indian Police Service is a service institution that should always steadfastly uphold the rule of law, respect the dignity of the individual and their human rights, and display an unwavering commitment to lawful methods of policing. But the cases of extrajudicial killings in India prove that reality is different from what was expected. Extrajudicial killings are acts of violence carried out by the law enforcement agencies without any judicial authorization.
This act is obviously illegal and it is typically carried out by the state government or other state authorities such as police force, armed force, and so on. Staffing, assassinations, indiscriminate firing, massacre, and mass killing are among the lethal penalties. Fake encounters that result in extrajudicial killings are a violation of fundamental rights. It immediately infringes on people's human rights by denying them access to their legal representatives and advisors. In the light of growing number of extrajudicial executions, the Supreme Court has ruled against them in numerous cases. It even went so far as to punish police officers who took part in phony confrontations to death. Moving on to the reasons of extrajudicial killings, the public support stems from lack of trust in the judiciary as many people fear that the courts will not provide justice in a timely manner. The fact that criminals get away with cold blooded murders is one of the main reasons why cops are becoming more daring and killing at will. There is also political support to consider. Many leaders turn their success in preserving law and order as a result of encounter numbers. Encounters are frequently acknowledged and awarded to police officers. The government rewards the teams that participate in competitions with promotions and cash prize. There are also ineffective institutions such as National Human Rights Commission and State Human Rights Commission, which have been superfluous for many years. Hero worship. Many people regard the police as heroes since they are seen as cleaning up Indian society by executing criminals. They are frequently portrayed as heroes on the big screen.
There are not many laws in India that directly discusses about the extrajudicial killing, but nevertheless, there are some laws and some judgments which indirectly deals with this extrajudicial killing. One of the most important law among this is Article 21. It just means that no person shall be deprived of his life and personal liberty except according to the procedure established by the law. So every person is entitled to a fair investigation and trial under Article 14 and Article 21 of the Constitution. National Human Rights Commission also mentioned about this in the report annual report of 1996 to 1997. It stated that any police official must not hold the authority to kill any person unless the authority the authority is given to him. If in case any police official either during the investigation or pre-investigation takes away any person's life, then he must be held responsible for the murder. Not only to it's called a murder unless it's proven to the contrary.
Coming to the recent developments of these extrajudicial killings in India, one of the most spoken cases of the type is the Ishrat Jahan case of 2004, which will be discussed further in the later part of the presentation. In 2012, a high profile case was filed before the Supreme Court of India, and it was related to the allegations of 1,528 killings in the state of Manipur alone, which are mostly conflict affected and related. Some of the cases dated back to 1979, and the recent ones were from 2012. The families of the victims and the other human rights organizations around the world have applauded the judgments that came out of the cases, and they were happy after waiting for the right to truth and justice after 40 years. In 2016, the long awaited Supreme Court judgment came up, and it established that any allegations on the use of excessive force by the uniformed personnel, which resulted in death, will go through an inquiry and investigation through the incident, and it will never be permissible, including if in the operations which are related to the insurgents and terrorist groups. And 2020, one of the most recent case happened that gathered a lot of media and public's attention. It's the Vikas Dubey's case, which will be discussed further.
Ishrat Jahan was a 19-year-old woman from Mumbai who was killed along with Javed Sheikh, Amjad Ali Akbar Ali Rana, and Jishan Johar on the outskirts of Ahmedabad in an alleged encounter. According to the police, all four were operatives of the Lashkar-e-Taiba who had a plan to kill the then Gujarat CM, Mr. Narendra Modi. In July 2004, a Pakistani news agency published a report claiming that Ishrat Jahan was a member of the Lashkar-e-Taiba terror group, addressing her as a woman activist of LET. The claim was later withdrawn by the terror group. However, the encounter was staged according to an investigation by the Gujarat High Court's Special Investigation Team. The case was then transferred to the Supreme Court, which passed it over to the CBI, which then filed a charge sheet against a number of Gujarat police officers for their possible involvement in the alleged encounter. When the FIR was filed on the day of the encounter, the police did not immediately identify Ishrat Jahan. In the police records, she was referred to as a female terrorist. She was later identified as a second-year student at Guru Nanak Khalsa College in Mumbai. Ishrat's mother, Shamim Khausa, said she was withdrawing herself from the judicial process 15 years after her daughter's death, claiming that her daughter's killers were roaming free.
That is the Vikas Dubey's case. Here is a timeline of the events that happened before he was killed. He named politicians that were connected to him in one of his old interviews and the ones that helped him with his crimes. He was spotted in Faridabad on July 5th, and after that, his allies and family were killed, and some of them were arrested on the further dates. On 9th July, his wife and children were arrested, and many more of his aides were also taken into custody. And finally, on July 10th, he was arrested and then later was encountered. And the police claimed that it was done as a part of self defense as he tried to take away their gun and flee. However, putting back together all the pieces tells a different story altogether. The incident was highly suspicious, and people, common citizens, journalists, everyone predicted that this inevitable encounter of Mr. Dubey was something suspicious because there was a plea in the Supreme Court a day before his death for securing him from the police. And the intent of the police was to silence him and exact revenge upon him because a lot of other associates of his, five of his associates and his family were also arrested and killed in a similar manner. And unreasonably, they went on to demolish his house and vehicles with an earth mover, which seemed suspicious altogether. The removal of eyewitnesses from the scene and restricting the journalists who were following the police who are carrying Dubey just minutes before the incident adds up to the dubious circumstances of shooting him.
Let's see how these killings lead to the deterioration of constitutional democracy. As discussed in the beginning, extrajudicial killings, an act against the law done by the armed forces and police officers, leads to numerous problems in the society. Many serious human rights violations occurred during these killings. A Mumbai court recently convicted 13 police officers for the killing of a suspected gangster in a fake armed encounter. The government does not take any action unless and until there is a strong response from the public. We have seen this with the response to sexual violence. Because the court system is overburdened, each trial takes a long time to complete. Witnesses are frequently threatened, but there is no efficient procedure in place to safeguard them. Police officers frequently say in private that they stage fake encounters because they are annoyed when criminals are apprehended after putting in a lot of effort and then they just walk away. Let us move on to way forward. Because they undermine the rule of law, encounter killings must be investigated independently. There is a need to ensure that the society has a rule of law that all state authorities and the general public must follow. Keeping the accused in proper physical custody helps to prevent them from attacking police officers. Next, in addition, there is an urgent need for a total overhaul of the criminal justice system, as well as the implementation of necessary police reforms. Standard rules and regulations must be established in order to better train police officers and provide them with all necessary abilities in order for them to appropriately handle any difficult situation. When dealing with arrested people, human rights considerations must be kept in mind.
Thank you so much.